Now when we're done with it, all you have to do is secure this. You can do it, it doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you get a good little knot in it. Extra virgin olive oil. We're just going to use a little tiny bit of this, first of all in the pan so that it doesn't stick. I don't like all those sprays, God knows what's in them.
Yeah.
And there's no point in it if we've always got a gallon of olive oil on hand. Just a little bit of this in the bottom of this to keep it from sticking, and that'll make a nice little sauce when it's done.
Very good.
We'll take our stuffed loin,
Seam side down.
seam side down, into our pan,
A little more olive oil on top.
a little bit on top like that. There's just enough salt on the outside of this pork to enhance the natural flavor of the pork. That's all it's doing. If you can taste the salt on the outside of this dish, you've used too much.
Too much. All right.
450 degrees for about 20 minutes, and that's going to get that sear on the outside of it that we want.
Right.
And then after the 20 minutes is over, we're going to reduce the heat to 350 degrees. After that period of 45 to 55 minutes of additional cook time at 350 degrees, we're going to take it out of the oven. We're going to leave it completely uncovered, and we're going to let it rest for about 20 minutes. Now what that'll do is you'll start rendering some of the natural juices from it, which is perfect. It's exactly what you want.
Right.
It's also going to let some of that fat that's starting to soften, it's going to start to solidify. Some of the connective tissues that have started to soften, they're going to start to re-solidify. It makes it easy to slice. The sauce is referred to as a bechamel. It's just
sauce.
a classic white sauce. It's one of the classic mother sauces. If anybody has studied culinary, we're going to use good old heavy whipping cream. And
now lavender, you talking lavender?
Lavender.
Like the flower?
Yep.
The scent? Oh, very nice.
Yep. And it tastes like soap. It doesn't taste like soap. Start with a cool pan.
Cool pan. Now, is this chilled or do you let it warm up just a little bit?
I let it warm up to room temperature.
Okay.
Do not make a cream sauce in an aluminum pot. There's going to be a chemical process when you start introducing things that are somewhat aggressive, acidic, lavender. I don't know if it's going to do it or not. There's no point in finding out, but it will turn the sauce gray or purple. It'll just kill your presentation.
Okay.
So we're just going to use a good old thick commercial stainless steel saucepan. We're probably going to use, looks like the equivalent of a heavy teaspoon of these little buds. You want to break them apart.
All right.
Just smash them with your fingers. Just work them down. That's going to release a lot of the essential oils. Instead of using chicken stock, because I'm lazy, I don't want this thing to cook down for 3 hours to thicken.
Right.
I'm going to use chicken base. It's just a soup base. It's essentially like a little bouillon cube, but this is actually a paste. I'm going to use probably a tablespoon, roughly.
All right.
3/4 of a tablespoon of this chicken base. And some sugar.
And some sugar.
I would say a good heavy tablespoon of sugar to start off with.
All right.
And a little bit more
Of your favorite.
my granulated garlic. Now from here, we need to go to the fire and get this thing cooking and thickened up so we can get it on the pork. Start it on medium heat. And you cannot whisk it too much. You just don't want to be too enthusiastic about it because you don't want it to be aerated. You don't want it to be foamy because you're going to have to thicken this thing.
You're not making whipped cream.
No.
All right.
You remember a minute ago we put in a big spoonful of that chicken base.
Right.
That chicken base is going to sink straight to the bottom.
All right.
If you don't have it fully incorporated, whatever's sticking in the bottom is going to burn to the bottom.
Right. And
So,
then it's going to taste like whatever burnt to the bottom.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do that.
Yeah. So just check your corners, make sure you got it good and incorporated. Now there are some recipes where people are using cream and it tells you to scald the cream. We're not going to scald this. Essentially all that means is to boil it. We don't want it to come to a boil. There are a few reasons for that. I don't want the flavor that produces. I like that kind of fresh, sweet flavor from the cream to taste like the cream with a hint of lavender. If you boil this, it's going to intensify the flavor of the lavender. It's going to bring out the sodium in the chicken base. There's no point doing all that because then you have to really correct the seasonings.
Okay.
This way, we cook it nice and slow, nice and low, just until you start to see bubbles forming around the outside edge of the pan. That means that it's close enough to boiling to where we can introduce our roux, because the best way to use a roux is when your liquid is boiling. Bring it to a boil, kill the heat, and then stir in your thickening agent. We're not going to do that. That's why we have to keep it low and slow.
I see.
a lot of people, when they're making a cream sauce like this, they won't rely as heavily on a roux as I do. Some people will use cornstarch. They'll make what's called a slurry, which is where you'll take some of this liquid out, put it into a bowl by itself. You'll stir cornstarch into that, bring the bulk of it to a boil, and then you'll reintroduce the slurry. You'll end up with a more velvety texture with cornstarch. It's a little bit more predictable. The sauce isn't as likely to break or separate.
Right.
I prefer a roux because I like the flavor. I love the flavor of that flour and the butter. It just gives it a little bit more richness, and it's classic.
Right. There you go.
It's classic. So once this starts to almost come to a boil, then that's when we'll stir in our roux. We'll bring it almost to a boil. The bubbles will form around the edge. We'll stir in our roux, check it for texture. We'll completely kill the heat, and then we'll take it. We'll check the seasonings, see if we have to adjust the flavors, and then we're ready to pour it on that absolutely beautiful pork roulade. We've already put in probably a half a tablespoon. We'll do that again. This might do it. And there again, it depends on how thick you want your sauce. A lot of chefs will assert that when you're making a cream sauce like this, that if it doesn't stick very heavily to your whisk, then it's not thick enough. I tend to agree with that. It's still pretty thin. We might have to do that a couple more times. But you want to do it quickly to make sure that it stays good and hot. And see, I can feel in my whisk that it's starting to thicken.
Now you're doing this with the heat off.
Right.
So you're just using the heat that's already in the cream.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to try to do it while the sauce is still heating, because it's a lot more active like that. It's a lot thinner like that. So this is gradually cooling as we're gradually adding the roux. I think we can probably do that one more time, and we should be in really good shape. Perfect.
Yeah, there you go. Look how that thickened up real nice.
Now the final step, if you don't do this, you'll be very disappointed, but the final step is going to be reheating this thing to cook some of that flour flavor out of that.
Ah.
Because a traditional roux, you're actually going to cook the roux before you use it.
I was going to ask you about using a blonde roux versus a darker roux. And this is a little bit different.
Yeah, this is a totally blonde roux that has not been cooked at all. So you can cook it for 15 or 20 seconds on low heat, and that'll get that flour flavor out of that. And that is the end of our lavender cream sauce.
Beautiful, beautiful.
We're open Tuesday through Saturday. We open at 5 o'clock every day,
5 o'clock.
till 8 during the week, and till 9 on the weekend.
Can you get reservations?
No, we don't.
No
we
reservations.
don't accept any reservations.
Very important.
Unless you want to bring a large group, 15, 20 people or more.
Okay.
We like to accommodate things like that. I don't
For
want
parties,
you to not come.
anniversaries, that kind of stuff.
Right, and we do a lot of Christmas parties.
Ah.
So if you plan on booking a Christmas party,
Right.
start calling right now, because
Yeah, do
we
it
will
early.
literally start booking Christmas parties within the next week or two.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
I think we've got all the string off of there.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's real important. You don't want to eat and floss at the same time.
Now, what I like to do when I start to plate this thing, the ends, like I mentioned earlier, don't have really much stuffing in them. So I usually just will cut those off and put it aside. Now we cut this on the bias. That's important for presentation. And all that means is just cut it at an angle.
Cut it in an angle.
So we're going to cut it just like this. And the reason I say it's important for presentation is because we can stand it up.
Ah, I get that three-dimensional.
Okay, now come these vegetables.
Very nice. So now you just sauteed these with a little bit of butter, a little salt and pepper, and you added just that little bit of leftover onion stock from when you sauteed, caramelized, and candied those onions. So that's going to add a little bit of onion flavor without overpowering, right?
Yep, that was the whole point. Just that little hint of onion at the end there. Give it a little dimension.
There you go.
And the best part,
Oh yeah. Wow,
a little lavender cream sauce.
that's amazing.
And that's it. Got to dress it up a little bit.
Dress it up, a little garnish there.
We'll put a little Italian parsley on the plate there. Oh, of course, if I can get it all over the leaves there. And that's it.
Beautiful, beautiful,
Gruyere
Look at-
cranberry stuffed pork roulade.
beautiful. Look at that. The presentation smells incredible. I can't wait to have some of this. If you have a great recipe you'd like to share with us, contact us through our website. It's yourplatesormine.net. Don't forget to send us an email. Who knows? We may come cook with you. Edward, thank you so much
You're welcome.
for showing us this amazing, incredible recipe. It sounds real complicated, but it's really not that difficult.
Dirt simple. Just follow the steps.
So try it at home. All these recipes will always be on our website. Once again, yourplatesormine.net. Edward, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Enjoyed it.
We'll goof up and start over, and I'll screw up and say, oh yeah, we're out here in Smith County. No. Work off a little stress of the day.
Anything the cocktail won't cure. Oh, you're not eating any of this.
What do you mean I'm not eating any of
Hey,
this?
this is for my wife.
Yeah? I got the bigger knife.
That's
Okay.
not a knife. That's a knife.
And
Yeah, but
you know what you're
this
doing?
is all you had to work with.
Yeah, I got a face for radio.
Can you make me look like Tom Selleck?